Speech anxiety is one of my favorite topics to talk about for a lot of reasons. It's really important that we understand what speech anxiety is and how to handle speech anxiety. A lot of people think that speech anxiety is something that's made up, or maybe it's something that isn't real, and it's very real. And it's important that we understand that it's real, and that we're sympathetic to those around us who are dealing with speech anxiety. So what we're going to cover in this chapter is what speech anxiety is, the different types of speech anxiety, and some strategies for dealing with speech anxiety. So the first thing is, what is speech anxiety? Speech anxiety is known as public speaking anxiety or communication apprehension. It's a situation-specific social anxiety that arises from the real or anticipated enactment of an oral presentation. Some causes of this, and many of you can relate. When I teach this class in a face-to-face setting, I'll ask students, why are you scared of speaking? What makes you afraid of getting up in front of an audience? A lot of them will say, I've done it before and I failed drastically. Either I fell, or I made a mistake, or I forgot where I was, or I lost the competition that I was competing in. So they are leery to do it again. They don't want to get up and feel that kind of negativity again. Another reason is feeling different. You might feel like someone is staring at a specific thing. Maybe you have a pimple. Maybe you just got braces. My first day of class last semester, I had gotten braces put on the day before that first class. So I was extremely conscientious of the words that I was saying, how I was saying my words, if I was talking differently, and I had a terrible lisp. And so I went ahead and sold myself out to my students, and I told them, I just got my braces put on, so I sound a little bit funny, and I promise it'll get better as the class goes on. So if it's something like that you can address, sometimes that'll make you feel a little bit better. If it's not something that you can address, if it's not something that you can, if you have a pimple, obviously you don't want to call yourself out and be like, I know I have this huge pimple on my forehead, but let's all ignore it. So if you can call it out, if it's something that in that way, then go ahead and mention it. If not, a lot of people won't notice it. I know a lot of times we'll have a pimple or we'll have something that we notice, but other people don't notice. And then the last reason is being the center of attention. If this was a face-to-face class, you would be giving your speech in front of 25 other students, and they would be staring at you and watching every move that you make and hearing every word that you're saying. And that is very uncomfortable for a lot of people. A lot of times people are not in tune with you as specifically as you think they are. They are probably listening, but not listening to their full capacity, or they're kind of daydreaming, or maybe they had an argument with their boyfriend before class, and so they're not really paying attention 100%. So remember that all of these things can be overcome. If you had a negative experience with public speaking before, maybe you can overcome it by having a wonderful experience. If you feel different, it might be something that you can address, or it might be something that people don't even notice. Being the center of attention, most of the time people are not really paying as close of attention as you think they are. So the next thing that we're going to talk about are the types of public speaking anxiety. So there's 4 different types: pre-preparation, preparation, pre-performance, and performance. We're going to go into a little bit of detail about what each of those are. So the first one is pre-preparation. Pre-preparation anxiety is when you start feeling anxious when you know that you're going to have a speech. So some of you, as soon as you signed up for this class, you were nervous. Some of you signed up for this class online because your speech anxiety is so high, and you know that you don't have to physically stand up in front of 25 classmates and give your speech. With pre-preparation anxiety, you usually don't prepare as well for the speech. You put it off, and you put it off, and you put it off, and you put it off until the last minute because you don't want to feel that anxiety. You don't want to stress about it. The best thing that you can do is use stress reducing techniques, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, that will help you manage the anxiety and work on the speech from the minute you know what's going to happen. So you know that we have 4 speeches in this course. If that makes you nervous, start working on those speeches when you see them posted on Blackboard. As soon as you see them posted, start working on them and figure out what it is that's making you nervous so that you can overcome that fear. The next stage is preparation. This is when you start preparing for your speech and all of a sudden you feel anxiety. You didn't feel it when you knew you had a speech. You don't feel it when you get up to speak. You feel it when you start working on the speech, and so you stop. Some reasons for that is because you start working on it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to take so much time. So you have an overwhelming amount of time and preparation that are going to have to go into the speech, and it freaks you out. I know a lot of times students put this class off and they think, oh, it's not as important as OChem, or it's not as important as biology or history or one of those classes. But it's still really important in the success of your career, and that's why this class is a required class, because there will be times that you're going to have to prepare something, that you're going to have to get up and give a speech. So you need to still prepare for this class. Sometimes you're preparing and you hit a roadblock, just like when you're writing an essay and all of a sudden you don't know where to go from there. That's okay. Step away for a few minutes, do some of the techniques that we're going to talk about in a little bit, and then come back and work again. If you get to that point, don't wait until the last minute. Reach out to me and say, hey, I hit a roadblock. I don't know what I'm doing and I really need your help. And I will do my best to help you get past that roadblock, to find help, to find the resources that you need. The last one I think all college students are famous for: procrastination. If you put these speeches off to the last minute because you think that this class is not that important, you will not succeed in this class. It is important that you start working on these speeches as soon as they are posted, because it is a big deal. It is a large chunk of your grade. So don't procrastinate until the last minute. This is going to help you alleviate that anxiety that you feel. A lot of times you fall into this cycle of stress. So you procrastinate and then you get anxiety and then you don't do well. And so you know the next time you're going to have a negative story associated with writing a speech for public speaking class. So don't start doing that. Start preparing as soon as you know that what the speech is, so that you can gain the sense of control that you need and the confidence to be successful. So get control of the situation. Don't let it get so out of hand that you have totally blown your chances at being successful on that speech. Reach out to me. If you know already that you have anxiety, let me know and say, this is where I find that my anxiety hits me. Can you help me? What can I do? What can we do? I want you to be successful in this class. So it is important that you talk to me and you reach out to me. The next stage is pre-performance. This is the anxiety that you feel once you begin rehearsing for your speech. So in my face-to-face classes, I tell my students, practice in front of your friends. So as soon as they get up in front of their friends, all of a sudden they are freaking out because people are staring at them and they're listening, and their friends are honest and their friends are picking it apart. And that's okay. You want to feel that stress. That means that you care. But don't let that anxiety take over you completely to where you cannot be successful in giving your speech. The best thing that I can say is practice maybe 5 times. I would say, practice once or twice the day before your speech, and then practice once on the day of your speech. Those are the most important times that you actually practice. And it's okay if you feel like you totally blow it the time before your speech. Just prepare yourself to forget what you're talking about, or to struggle to get through the speech when you actually get up. Sometimes the reality of the situation sets in and you realize, oh my gosh, tomorrow I'm going to have to stand up in front of all of these people and give my speech. If you find it difficult to continue, allow yourself anxiety stop time. So give yourself 10-15 minutes to stop, relax, don't think about it, do something else, move on to a different project, and then come back and try it again. Don't try to keep pushing, don't try to keep going through, because that's just going to make it more difficult. And then the last is the most common. This is performance anxiety, and that typically occurs during the introduction of your speech. So you've heard people say before, once you get past the first minute, you'll feel better. Most of the time that will happen. People who have high trait anxiety may not ever feel their anxiety subside. You may be anxious and freaking out the entire time that you're giving your speech. In my career, in the time that I've taught, I've had one student that had high trait anxiety that she never overcame her fear while she was speaking. I've had other students who have had high trait anxiety Their first speech, they were nervous the entire time. Their second speech was a little bit better. Their third speech, it was a little bit better. And by their fourth speech, once they got through maybe their credibility statement, they were already feeling better about their speech. Just remember that you can gain control of your anxiety. We're going to talk about some techniques in the next couple of slides of how to get over those fears, how to deal with that anxiety. So it's really important that you practice those things if you're feeling that anxiety. Some of those strategies: prepare and practice. You have to prepare your speech ahead of time, and you have to practice. This is going to help you be more successful, and it's going to give you the confidence that you need to get up there and just blow us out of the water. Modify your thoughts and attitudes. So many of you are already going into this saying, I don't want to give this speech. I hate this class. This class is stupid. I don't know why I have to take this class. Change that. Change the way you think. Change the way you talk about it, and be positive in it. Visualize success. So in your book, there is on page 48, there is a script that you can practice visualizing success. And then activate the relaxation response. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail. And then using movement to minimize anxiety. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in detail as well. So in your book, this activating the relaxation response is in your book on page 49. So this is just some breathing techniques that you can practice. The stress control breathing, you can actually practice while you're in class. So if you're like the second speaker, you can practice stress control breathing while the first speaker is giving their speech. The others I would encourage that you use if you feel like you need them. Meditating is a good way. If you're a religious person, prayer is another good way to relax and to concentrate on the task at hand. Using movement is my favorite way. As I'm talking right now, I'm using movement. I'm using my hands. I'm using my face. All of those things help us. So the first one sounds a little bit ridiculous, right? Practice natural gestures. How do you practice something that's natural? Some people do not move naturally when they're speaking. So try that. Try natural hand gestures. Try to get up and speak, in front of the mirror and see yourself using hand motions, using, steps, nodding your head along when you want someone to agree with you, those kind of things. Moving as you speak. If you move while you speak, move with a purpose. Don't meander back and forth. Move with a purpose. If you're moving in between points, if you're making an important point, stop and face your audience so that they know that's something that they need to remember. Don't just like dilly-dally and dance around. That is not using movement effectively. Enjoy the occasion. Be excited about what you're doing. Remember, for your persuasive speech, you are persuading your audience on something that you're passionate about. So enjoy that and learn from the feedback that I give you. I will give you plenty of feedback about your speeches, about how well you did, about things that you can improve on, and use that. Use that to build and to be more successful in your next speech. So for your assignment for this lesson, you're going to complete the PRCA 24. The grading on there is a little bit confusing. There's instructions on the actual assignment, but your score should be between 24 and 120. If it's not in between there, then you did your math wrong. So go back and redo your math. If you have questions about that, let me know. You're going to write a reflective post on what your score is, how well you feel that relates to your reality. Sometimes students will have a really high score and they're like, no, I'm not nervous at all. They might have high preparation anxiety and they don't realize it. Tell us what your highest subcategory is. That'll make sense when you look at the PRCA. And give us some things that you do to cope with your anxiety. How do you cope with those problems that you feel? If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me during my online office hours. Send me an email. Send me an email setting up a time for us to have a discussion, any of those things. I am always here for you. That's what I'm here for, is to help you. I'm very passionate about speech anxiety. So if this is something that you struggle with, please reach out to me and talk to me about it. Any questions, let me know, and I hope you have a wonderful week.